The McDonnell Douglas F-15E Strike Eagle is an American all-weather multirole fighter, derived from the McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle. The F-15E was designed in the 1980s for long-range, high-speed interdiction without relying on escort or electronic warfare aircraft. United States Air Force F-15E Strike Eagles can be distinguished from other U.S. Eagle variants by darker camouflage and conformal fuel tanks mounted along the engine intakes. The Strike Eagle has been deployed for military operations in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Libya. During these operations the F-15E has carried out deep strikes against high-value targets, combat air patrols, and providing close air support for coalition troops. It has also seen action in later conflicts and has been exported to several countries. Development, origins. The McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle had been introduced by the United States Air Force as a replacement for its fleet of McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom IIs. However, unlike the F-4, the F-15 was strictly designed for the air superiority mission with little consideration for a ground attack role. The F-15 Special Project Office opposed the idea of F-15s performing the interdiction mission, giving rise to the phrase "not a pound for air-to-ground." In service, the F-15 was a very successful fighter, with over 100 aerial combat victories and no losses in air-to-air combat. Despite a lack of official interest, McDonnell Douglas quietly worked on an F-15 derived interdiction fighter. The company envisaged the aircraft as a replacement for the General Dynamics F-111 and the remaining F-4s, as well as to augment the existing F-15s. In 1978, the USAF initiated the Tactical All-Weather Requirement Study, which looked at McDonnell Douglas's proposal and other options such the purchase of further F-111Fs. TAWRS recommended the F-15E as the USAF's future strike platform. In 1979, McDonnell Douglas and Hughes began a close collaboration on the development of the F-15E's air-to-ground capabilities. To assist in the F-15E's development, McDonnell Douglas modified the second F-15A prototype, serial number 71-0291, as a demonstrator. The aircraft, known as the Advanced Fighter Capability Demonstrator, first flew on July 8, 1980. It was previously used to trial conformal fuel tanks, initially designed for the F-15 under the designation Fast Pack, with fast standing for fuel and sensor, tactical. It was subsequently fitted with a PAVE-TAC laser designator pod to allow the independent delivery of guided bombs. The demonstrator was displayed at the 1980 Farnborough Air Show. Enhanced Tactical Fighter. In March 1981, the USAF announced the Enhanced Tactical Fighter program to procure a replacement for the F-111. The program was later renamed the Dual-Role Fighter Competition. The concept envisioned an aircraft capable of launching deep interdiction missions without requiring additional support by fighter escort or jamming. General Dynamics submitted the F-16XL, while McDonnell Douglas submitted the F-15E. The Panavia Tornado was also a candidate, but since the aircraft lacked a credible air superiority capability, coupled with the fact that it is not American-made, it was not seriously considered. The DRF evaluation team, under the direction of Brigadier General Ronald W. Yates, ran from 1981 through April 30, 1983, during which the F-15E logged more than 200 flights, demonstrated takeoff weight of more than 75,000 pounds, and validated 16 different weapons-carrying configurations. McDonnell Douglas, to assist 71-0291 in the evaluation, added to the program other F-15s, designated 78-0468, 80-0055 and 81-0063. The single-engine F-16XL was a promising design which, with its radically redesigned crank delta wing, lifted the F-16's performance enormously. In the event that they were chosen, the single- and two-seat versions would have been designated F-16E and F-16F, respectively. However, on February 24, 1984, the USAF chose the F-15E. Key factors in the decision were the low development costs of the F-15E compared to the F-16XL, a belief that the F-15E had future growth potential, and possessing twin-engine redundancy. The USAF was initially expected to procure 400 aircraft, a figure later revised to 392. Construction of the first 3 F-15Es started in July 1985. The first of these, 86-0183, made its maiden flight on December 11, 1986. Piloted by Gary Jennings, the aircraft reached a maximum speed of Mach 0.9 and an altitude of 40,000 feet during the 75-minute flight. This aircraft had the full F-15E avionics suite and the redesigned front fuselage, but not the aft fuselage and the common engine bay. The latter was featured on 86-0184, while 86-0185 incorporated all the changes of the F-15E from the F-15. On March 31, 1987, the first officially completed F-15E made its first flight. The first production F-15E was delivered to the 405th Tactical Training Wing, Luke Air Force Base, Arizona in April 1988. The F-15E reached operational capability on September 30, 1989 at Seymour Johnson AFB in North Carolina with the 4th Tactical Fighter Wing, 336th Tactical Fighter Squadron. Production continued into the 2000s with 236 produced for the USAF through 2001. Variants of the F-15E have been developed for Israel, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, and Singapore. Upgrade programs and replacement. The F-15E will be upgraded with the Raytheon APG-82 active electronically scan array radar after 2007, and the first test radar was delivered to Boeing in 2010. It combines the processor of the APG-79 used on the FF Super Hornet with the antenna of the APG-63B, 3A ESA being fitted on the F-15C. The new radar upgrade is to be part of the F-15E radar modernization program. The new radar was named APG-63B, until it received the APG-82 designation in 2009. The RMP also includes a wideband radome, and improvements to the environment control and electronic warfare systems. Having a sturdier airframe rated for twice the lifetime of earlier variants, the F-15E is expected to remain in service past 2025. As of December 2012, the USAF's F-15E fleet has an average age of 21 years and an average airframe flying time of 6,000 hours. Reportedly, Air Force leaders were considering future options to replace the fleet in the long term. While some F-15CDS have been replaced by the F-22, there is no slated replacement for the F-15E. One choice is the F-35 Lightning II, which is already set to replace other attack aircraft such as the F-16 Falcon and A-10 Thunderbolt II. Industry sources have studied a possible F-35E variant that could lead to a two-seat or extended-range Lightning model. It would be a complex task, and thus expensive, to add a second seat to the F-35, especially to preserve its stealth profile. Providing for greater range and payload would also be difficult tasks. Alternatively, the Air Force could choose to forego this niche role, instead covering it with a combination of fighter and bomber aircraft. This could involve increasing the planned numbers of long-range strike bombers from 100 to 250 to 300, which could deploy a stealthy unmanned aerial vehicle to perform strike missions. The F-15E could also be retained until the 2030s and replaced by a clean-sheet 6th-generation aircraft design. Silent Eagle. The F-15E Silent Eagle is a proposed upgrade of the F-15E by Boeing using stealth features, such as internal weapons carriage and radar-absorbent material. This version features conformal weapons bays to hold weapons internally instead of conformal fuel tanks in the twin vertical tails canted outward 15 degrees to reduce radar cross-section. Weapons storage takes the place of most of each CWB with the remainder for fuel storage. However, unlike the Strike Eagle, the Silent Eagle is optimized for air-to-air missions, as it does not have all-aspect stealth features to conduct offensive strike missions into areas protected by ground-based anti-aircraft systems. The first production F-15E, SN86-0183, was modified to the F-15E-1 configuration to serve as a Silent Eagle demonstrator. It first flew on July 8, 2010 with a left-side conformal weapons bay, and on July 20, 2010 an AMRAAM was successfully launched from the CWB. Potential customers included Israel, Saudi Arabia, Japan, and South Korea. ALASA. On April 1, 2014, Boeing won a $30.6 million contract from DARPA as part of the Airborne Launch Assist Space Access Program. The goal of the program is to cut the cost of putting microsatellites into orbit by 66% through advances in launch systems. Under the 11-month contract, Boeing will build 12 24FT launch vehicles, each with a payload capability of up to 100 lb. An ALASA vehicle is to be fitted under an F-15E, which would climb to 40,000 feet, then be released and fire its 4 engines to reach low Earth orbit. Design. The F-15E's deep strike mission is a radical departure from the original intent of the F-15, since the F-15 was designed as an air superiority fighter under the mantra "not a pound for air-to-ground." The basic airframe, however, proved versatile enough to produce a very capable strike fighter. The F-15E, while designed for ground attack, retains the air-to-air lethality of the F-15, and can defend itself against enemy aircraft. The F-15E prototype was a modification of the two-seat F-15B. The F-15E, despite its origins, includes significant structural changes and much more powerful engines. The aft fuselage was designed to incorporate the more powerful engines with advanced engine bay structures and doors. The advanced structures utilize superplastic forming and diffusion bonding technologies. The back seat is equipped for a weapons systems officer to work the new air-to-ground avionics. The WSO uses multiple screens to display information from the radar, electronic warfare, or infrared sensors, monitor aircraft or weapons status and possible threats, select targets, and use an electronic moving map to navigate. 2 hand controls are used to select new displays and to refine targeting information. Displays can be moved from one screen to another, chosen from a menu of display options. Unlike earlier two-place jets, whose back seat lacked flying controls, the back seat of the F-15E cockpit is equipped with its own stick and throttle so the WSO can take over flying, albeit with reduced visibility. To extend its range, the F-15E is fitted with 2 conformal fuel tanks that hug the fuselage. These produce lower drag than conventional underwing underbelly drop tanks. They carry 750 US gallons of fuel, and house 6 weapons hardpoints in 2 rows of 3 in tandem. Unlike conventional drop tanks, CFTs cannot be jettisoned, thus the increased range is offset by the degraded performance from the increased drag and weight compared to a clean configuration. Similar tanks can be mounted on the F-15CD and export variants, and the Israeli Air Force makes use of this option on their fighter variant F-15s as well as their F-15I variant of the Strike Eagle, but the F-15E is the only U.S. variant to be routinely fitted with CFTs. The Strike Eagle's tactical electronic warfare system integrates all countermeasures on the craft, radar warning receivers, radar jammer, radar, and chaff flare dispensers are all tied to the TEWS to provide comprehensive defense against detection and tracking. This system includes an externally mounted ALQ-131 ECM pod which is carried on the centerline pylon when required. The APG-70 radar system allows air crews to detect ground targets from longer ranges. One feature of the system is that after a sweep of a target area, the crew freezes the air-to-ground map then goes back into air-to-air mode to clear for air threats. During the air-to-surface weapon delivery, the pilot is capable of detecting, targeting and engaging air-to-air targets while the WSO designates the ground target. The APG-70 is to be replaced by the AN/APG-82B, one active electronically scan array radar, which will begin flight tests in January 2010 with initial operational capability expected in 2014. Its inertial navigation system uses a laser gyroscope to continuously monitor the aircraft's position and provide information to the central computer and other systems, including a digital moving map in both cockpits. The low-altitude navigation and targeting infrared for night system is mounted externally under the engine intakes. It allows the aircraft to fly at low altitudes, at night and in any weather conditions, to attack ground targets with a variety of precision-guided and unguided weapons. The LANTIRN system gives the F-15E exceptional accuracy in weapons delivery day or night and in poor weather, and consists of 2 pods attached to the exterior of the aircraft. At night, the video picture from the LANTIRN can be projected on the HUD, producing an infrared image of ground contour. The navigation pod contains a terrain-following radar which allows the pilot to safely fly at a very low altitude following cues displayed on a heads-up display. This system also can be coupled to the aircraft's autopilot to provide hands-off terrain-following capability. Additionally, the pod contains a forward-looking infrared system which is projected on the pilot's HUD, which is used during nighttime or low-visibility operations. The ANAAQ-13 nav pod is installed beneath the right engine intake. The targeting pod contains a laser designator and a tracking system that mark an enemy for destruction as far away as 10 mi. Once tracking has been started, targeting information is automatically handed off to infrared air-to-surface missiles or laser-guided bombs. The targeting pod is mounted beneath the left engine intake. Configurations may be either the ANAAQ-14 target pod, ANAAQ-28 Lieutenant target pod or the ANAAQ-33 sniper pod. For air-to-ground missions, the F-15E can carry most weapons in the USAF inventory. It also can be armed with AIM-9 Sidewinders, AIM-7 Sparrow and AIM-120 AMRAAMs for self-defense. Like the F-15C, the Strike Eagle also carries an internally mounted General Electric M61A120 cannon with 650 rounds, which is effective against enemy aircraft and soft ground targets. The MIDS Fighter Data Link Terminal, produced by BAE Systems, improves situational awareness and communications capabilities via the Link 16 data link. Since 2004, South Korean firm Lignex-1 has been manufacturing the F-15's head-up display. A total number of 150 HUDs were delivered by 2011. Lignex-1 had been a participant in the F-15K program as a subcontractor to Rockwell Collins. Lignex-1 is also preparing to manufacture F-15's new multi-function display and flight control computer. Also since 2004, Korea Aerospace Industries has produced the wings and forward fuselages of the F-15. In 2008, KAI established another production line for Singapore's F-15SG. KAI is involved in the development and manufacture of the conformal weapons bay to be used on the F-15 Silent Eagle. Operational history: United States, Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. The F-15E saw action in response to Iraq's invasion of Kuwait in August 1990 for Operation Desert Shield. The 336th Tactical Fighter Squadron flew to Sea Bear Base in Oman to begin training exercises in anticipation of an Iraqi attack on Saudi Arabia. In December, the 335th and 336th Squadrons relocated to Al-Kharj Air Base in Saudi Arabia, closer to Iraq's border. Operation Desert Storm began on January 17, 1991. 24 F-15s launched an attack upon 5 fixed Scud installations in western Iraq. Missions against Scud sites continued through that night, with a second strike consist of 21 F-15s. At nighttime, F-15s flew hunter missions over western Iraq, searching for mobile Scud launchers. By conducting random bombings in suspected areas, it was hoped to deter the Iraqis from setting up for a Scud launch. On the opening night of the war, an F-15E tracked a MiG-29 and fired an AIM-9 Sidewinder, which failed to hit its target. Other F-15s simultaneously tried to engage the lone MiG-29, but were also unsuccessful, although the MiG was eventually brought down by a missile of unknown source. The same night another flight was attacked by a MiG-29. A low-altitude engagement ensued and the MiG-29 hit the ground. On January 18, during a strike against a petrol oil and lubricant plant near Basra, an F-15E was lost to enemy fire, the pilot and WSO were killed. F-15E crews described this mission as the most difficult and dangerous of the war, as it was heavily defended by SA-3s, SA-6s, SA-8s and Rolands, as well as by anti-aircraft artillery. 2 nights later, a second and final F-15E was downed by an Iraqi SA-2. The crew survived and managed to evade capture for several days and even made in contact with coalition aircraft, but rescue was unable to be launched due to security issues. One airman failed to identify himself with proper codes. The 2 airmen were later captured by the Iraqis. Strike Eagles were able to destroy 18 Iraqi jets on the ground at Tallal Air Base using GBU-12s and CBU-87s. On February 14, an F-15E scored its only air-to-air kill, a Mi-24 helicopter. While responding to a request for help by U.S. Special Forces, 5 Iraqi helicopters were spotted. The lead F-15E of 2 acquired a helicopter via its FLIR in the process of unloading Iraqi soldiers, and released a GBU-10 bomb. The F-15E crew thought the bomb had missed its target and were preparing to use a sidewinder when the helicopter was destroyed. The Special Forces team estimated that the Hind was roughly 800 feet over the ground when the 2000 lb bomb hit its target. As coalition bombing operation had commenced, the F-15Es disengaged from combat with the remaining helicopters. F-15Es attacked various heavily defended targets throughout Iraq, prioritizing Scud missile sites. Missions with the objective of killing Iraqi President Saddam Hussein were undertaken. Several suspected locations were bombed by F-15Es. Prior to the operation's ground war phase, F-15Es conducted tank-linking missions against Iraqi vehicles in Kuwait. Following 42 days of heavy combat, a ceasefire came into effect on March 1, 1991, leading to the establishment of northern and southern no-fly zones over Iraq. Operations Southern Watch and Northern Watch. Following Desert Storm, 2 no-fly zones over Iraq were set up, and enforced typically by US and UK aircraft. In one incident, an attack on up to 600 Kurdish refugees by Iraqi helicopters at Cham Canal, northern Iraq, was observed by a flight of F-15Es. As they were not allowed to open fire, the F-15E pilots chose to conduct several high-speed passes as close as possible to the Iraqi helicopters to create severe wake turbulence, while aiming lasers at the helicopters' cockpits of the Iraqi helicopters in an attempt to blind their crews. This limited intervention caused the crash of one Hind. Afterwards, USAF leadership ordered F-15Es not to fly below 10,000 feet to deter a repetition. F-15Es from the 391st Fighter Squadron, 492d Fighter Squadron, and 494th Fighter Squadron regularly deployed to Turkey throughout the mid to late 1990s. In January 1993, Iraqi targets in breach of the ceasefire agreement below the 32nd parallel north were attacked. 10 F-15Es conducted another punitive strike a few days later. Most missions were of a defensive nature, though the Strike Eagles typically carried a wide variety of weapons on a mission, making them quite flexible. AWACS aircraft were in close contact with F-15E crews, who would receive new taskings while airborne and thus could fly unplanned attacks on Iraqi targets. After 1993, violations of the no-fly zones were minimal as Iraq staged a minor withdrawal. In 1997 Turkey approved the creation of Operation Northern Watch and permitted U.S. forces to use the Incirlik Air Base. In December 1998, Operation Desert Fox was conducted when Iraq refused UNSCOM inspections. On December 28, 1998, 3 F-15Es each dropped 2 GBU-12 500-pound precision-guided munitions to successfully strike an SA-3 tracking radar and optical guidance unit. After Desert Fox, Iraq stepped up its violations of the no-fly zones, thus a number of retaliatory and pre-planned strikes were conducted by F-15Es. In ONW alone, weapons were expended on at least 105 days. Between 24 and 26 January 1999, F-15Es expended several AGM-130s and GBU-12s against SAM sites in northern Iraq near Mosul. F-15Es flew in support of Operation Provide Comfort and Operation Provide Comfort II. Operations in the Balkans. Operation Deny Flight was a United Nations enforced no-fly zone over Bosnia and Herzegovina due to the deteriorating situation in the Balkans. In August 1993, F-15Es from 492d and 494th FS deployed to Aviano, Italy. In late 1993, NATO ordered a limited F-15E strike at the Udbina airfield, targeting Serbian forces in neighboring Croatia. 8 F-15Es armed with GBU-12s took off to attack an SA-6 anti-aircraft vehicle. The mission was cancelled mid-flight over the application of stringent rules of engagement. In December 1993, F-15Es were launched to destroy a pair of SA-2 sites which had opened fire on 2 Royal Navy Sea Harrier FRS-1s. In August 1995, 90th Fighter Squadron joined the 2 other F-15E squadrons. The 492d and 494th had flown over 2,500 sorties since deny flight had begun. 2,000 of these were credited to 492d. Near the end of August 1995, in support of NATO's Operation Deliberate Force, F-15Es flew multiple strike missions against Serbian armor and logistics around the Bosnian capital, Sarajevo. On September 9, an F-15E deployed the first GBU-15 bomb for the type. A total of 9 were dropped against Bosnian Serb ground forces and air defense targets around Banja Luka. In response to the displacement of Kosovars and the Serbian government's rejection of a NATO ultimatum, Operation Allied Force was launched in March 1999. A total of 26 F-15Es flew the first strikes of Allied Force against Serb surface-to-air missile sites, anti-aircraft batteries and early warning radar stations. Strike Eagles were deployed to Aviano as well as RAF Lakenheath in the UK. In theatre, F-15Es conducted close air support missions, a new idea in the late 1990s which has since become a popular concept within the USAF. Missions typically lasted around 7.5 hours, included 2 aerial refuelings. F-15Es would carry a mix of air-to-air and air-to-ground munitions to perform both combat air patrol duties as well as strike missions in the same mission. Mobile SAM launchers posed a considerable threat to NATO aircraft and had made successful shoot-downs, most notably of a Lockheed F-117 Nighthawk. In order to strike from increased distances, the F-15E was equipped with the AGM-130, which provided a standoff strike capability. Operation Enduring Freedom. Weeks after the September 11 attacks in 2001, the 391st Fighter Squadron deployed to Ahmed al-Jabba Air Base, Kuwait, to support Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. F-15Es met little resistance during initial missions. In the first night, targets ranged from Taliban military structures and supply depots, to al-Qaeda training camps and caves were the main targets. Both the AGM-130 and GBU-15 2000 LB bombs were expended. This was the GBU-15's first combat usage. GBU-24s and GBU-28s were used against reinforced targets, command and control centers and cave entrances. F-15 is often operated in pairs alongside pairs of F-16 and CS. Within weeks of the start of combat operations, there was a lack of targets to strike as nearly all targets had been already destroyed. The Taliban had access to SA-7 and FIM-92 Stinger portable surface-to-air missiles, posing no threat to most aircraft flying above 7,000 feet. Additionally, fixed SAM sites near cities as Mazar-i-Sharif and Bagram were struck early on. Afghanistan had rapidly become a low-threat environment for air operations. Aircraft commonly flew on-call support missions for Allied ground forces. F-15 usually carried Mk-82 and GBU-12 bombs in this role. Other weapons were sometimes carried. During one mission, a GBU-28, 2 GBU-24s and 6 GBU-12s were released. Frequent targets during the rest of the war were individual insurgents, light vehicles and supply convoys. Cannon fire was often expended as well as bombs from F-15s. It was during combat over Afghanistan that 391st Cruise conducted the longest fighter mission in history. Lasting a total of 15.5 hours, 9 of those hours spent flying over the target area. 2 F-15s attacked 2 Taliban command and control facilities, 2 buildings suspected of being used by Taliban fighters, and a roadblock. The F-15s refueled 12 times during the mission. On March 4, Another incident now known as the Battle of Roberts unregistered trademark Ridge involved several F-15Es that had embarked on a close air support mission for ground forces. Aircraft destroyed a Taliban observation post and responded to nearby enemy mortar fire upon Navy SEAL forces in a search for an ambushed MH-47E Chinook in the Shalikot Valley. Several bombs were dropped as the SEAL team still took fire, however one bomb missed due to the wrong coordinates being entered by the aircrew. An MH-47 carrying a rescue team was downed by an RPG while attempting to support the SEALs. Following refueling, the F-15Es dropped a further 11 GBU-12s in coordination with ground forces, and fired their cannons on Taliban forces in close proximity to the survivors of the downed MH-47. A section of F-16s from 18th Fighter Squadron made strafing passes as well until cannon ammunition was depleted, before resorting to further bomb drops. The F-15Es were affected by technical problems involving both radios and weapons that had failed. Several GBU-12s were dropped before returning to Al Jabba in Kuwait. Years later, several incidents have occurred. On August 23, 2007, a friendly fire incident involved an F-15E mistakenly dropping a 500 lb bomb on British forces. 3 soldiers were killed. The stated cause was confusion between the air controller and the F-15E crew on the bombing coordinates. On September 13, 2009, an F-15E shot down a non-responsive MQ-9 Reaper drone over northern Afghanistan to prevent it entering foreign airspace. Operation Iraqi Freedom. In late 2002, during tension over suspected Iraqi possession of weapons of mass destruction, the 4th Fighter Wing at Seymour Johnson AFB was ordered to maintain at least one squadron ready to deploy to the Persian Gulf. During January 2003, the 336th was deployed to Al Udeid Air Base, Qatar. A total of 24 aircraft were deployed to Al Udeid in coordination with planners of the Combined Air Operations Center at Prince Sultan Air Base, Saudi Arabia. In late January, the F-15Es began flying in support of Operation Southern Watch, typically performing surveillance and reconnaissance missions. Additional missions included simulated combat against potential Iraqi targets and regional familiarization with local procedures and rules of engagements. During OSW, F-15Es attacked a number of targets in southern and western Iraq, including radars, radio communications and relay stations, command and control sites, and air defenses. On one night, 4 F-15Es fired multiple GBU-24s at the Iraqi Republican Guard Ba'ath Party headquarters in Basra, while another flight of 4 destroyed a nearby air defense sector headquarters with 6 GBU-10s. Towards the end of February, the 336th received additional air crews, many of which being drafted from the 2 non-deployable squadrons at Seymour Johnson and 391st Fighter Squadron at Mountain Home Air Force Base, for a total of 4 aircrews per F-15E. In early March, the 335th Fighter Squadron's personnel and aircraft joined the 336th at Al Udeid. One objective was the destruction of Iraq's air defenses and early warning radar network near the border with Jordan, allowing F-16s and Special Forces helicopters to operate from Jordan at the outset of the war. Several radar sites and radio relay stations were hit in western Iraq near the H-3 airfield. During these missions, coalition jets met with heavy anti-aircraft fire. On March 19, as F-117 Nighthawks dropped bombs over Baghdad, targeting a house where Saddam Hussein was believed to be. F-15Es dropped GBU-28s around the H-3 airfield. On March 20, when the war effectively began, F-15Es fired AGM-130s against key communication, command and control buildings, and other key targets in Baghdad. A few of the weapons missed intended targets, possibly caused by the jamming operations of EA-6B prowlers in the vicinity. On April 3, 2003, F-15E pilot mistook a M270 multiple launch rocket system for an Iraqi surface-to-air missile site and dropped a 500 lb laser-guided bomb, killing 3 and wounding 5 others. On April 6, 2003, an F-15E, crewed by Captain Eric Das and Major William Watkins, performed a critical interdiction mission in support of Special Forces. On the following day, Das and Watkins crashed while bombing targets around Tikrit. The crew were posthumously awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Purple Heart for their actions. During the war, F-15Es were credited with destroying 60% of the total force of the Iraqi Medina Republican Guard. They also scored hits on 65 MiGs on the ground, and destroyed key air defense and command buildings in Baghdad. During the war, F-15Es worked closely with other jets that were deployed to Al-Udeid, including RAAF F-A-18s, USAF F-16s and F-117s, RAF Panavia Tornado fighters and a detachment of U.S. Navy F-14s from VF-154. Operation Odyssey Dawn, following the adoption of United Nations Security Council Resolution 1973 on March 17, 2011, 18 USAF F-15E fighters, and a variety of other NATO and Allied aircraft were deployed to enforce the Libyan no-fly zone as part of Operation Odyssey Dawn. On March 21, 2011, an F-15E Strike Eagle, tail number 91 Euro 304, from the 492nd FS crashed near Benghazi, Libya. Both crew members parachuted into territory held by resistance elements of the Libyan population and were eventually rescued by U.S. Marines. Equipment problems caused a weight imbalance and contributed to the crash when leaving the target area. Israel, the F-15I is operated by the Israeli Defense Force Air Force No. 69 Squadron, which had previously operated the F-4 Phantom II. After the Gulf War in 1991, in which Israeli towns were attacked by Scud missiles based in Iraq, the Israeli government decided that it needed a long-range strike aircraft and issued a request for information. In response, Lockheed Martin offered a version of the F-16 Fighting Falcon, while McDonnell Douglas offered both the F-A-18 Hornet and the F-15E. On January 27, 1994, the Israeli government announced that the intention to purchase 21 modified F-15Es, designated F-15I. On May 12, 1994, the U.S. government authorized the purchase of up to 25 F-15Es by Israel. In November 1995, Israel ordered 4 extra F-15Es, thus 25 were built from 1996 to 1998. The first F-15I combat mission was flown in Lebanon on January 11, 1999. The aircraft can carry the AIM-9L, Rafael Python 4 and the Rafael Python 5 infrared homing missiles, and the AIM-7 Sparrow and the AIM-120 AMRAAM radar-guided missiles. The Python 4 can be launched at up to 90 degrees off-bore sight, with the pilot aiming using the helmet-mounted sight. In 1999, Israel announced its intention to procure more fighter aircraft, and the F-15I was a possible contender. However, it was announced that the contract would go to the F-16I. Saudi Arabia, in November 2009, Royal Saudi Air Force F-15s, along with Saudi Tornadoes, performed air raids during the Shia insurgency in North Yemen. This was the Saudi Air Force's first military action over hostile territory since Operation Desert Storm in 1991. Saudi Arabia requested 84 F-15SA aircraft, upgrade of its F-15S fleet to F-15SA standard, and related equipment and weapons through a foreign military sale in October 2010. The F-15SA variant includes the APG-63, V-3 active electronically scan array radar, digital electronic warfare systems, infrared search and track systems, and other advanced systems. Variants: F-15E, two-seat all-weather long-range strike and ground attack aircraft for the USAF. A total of 236 were built from 1985 to 2001. F-15I. The F-15I is operated by the Israeli Air Force where it is known as the RAIM. It is a dual-seat ground attack aircraft powered by 2 Pratt & Whitney F-100 PW229 engines, and is based on the F-15E. The F-15I RAIM is similar to the F-15E, but features several different avionics systems to meet Israeli requirements. To facilitate nighttime strikes, the F-15Es were initially fitted with sharpshooter targeting pods designed for Israeli F-16s. the sharpshooter pod was less capable than the LANTIRN pods used on USAF F-15Es. Israel later purchased 30 LANTIRN pods. The F-15Es initially lacked radar warning receivers, thus Israel installed its own electronic warfare equipment, the Al-Isra SPS-2110, as well as a new central computer and embedded GPS-INS system. All sensors can be slaved to the display and sight helmet-mounted sight, providing both crew members a means of targeting which the F-15E lacks. The F-15I uses the APG-70I radar. Its terrain mapping capability can be used to locate targets that are otherwise difficult to spot. For example, missile batteries, tanks and structures in adverse conditions such as heavy fog or rain. The radar can detect large airliner-sized targets at 150 nautical miles, and fighter-sized targets at 56 nautical miles, although it has a reduced resolution 1/3 below the standard USAF APG-70. F-15K, the F-15K Slam Eagle is an advanced derivative of the F-15E, operated by the Republic of Korea Air Force. Several major components were outsourced to various Korean companies as part of an offset agreement, wherein Korea was responsible for 40% of production and 25% of assembly. Fuselage and wings are supplied by Korea Aerospace Industries, flight control actuator by Henha Corporation, electronic jammer and radar warning receiver by Samsung Thales, head-up display, airborne communication system, and radar by Lignex 1. And engines by Samsung Techwin under license before final assembly at Boeing's St. Louis facility. In 2002, ROKAF selected the F-15K for its FX fighter program, during which the F-15K, the Dassault Rafale, the Eurofighter Typhoon and Sukhoi Su-35 were evaluated. A total 40 aircraft were ordered with deliveries beginning in 2005. On April 25, 2008, the Korean government announced the order of second batch of 21 F-15KS, worth 2.3 trillion Korean won. Aircraft of second batch differs from the first batch in having Pratt & Whitney F-100 PW229 engines, license produced by Samsung Techwin, for commonality with the KF-16 fleet. Republic of Korea Air Force has received 50 F-15KS by June 2011. South Korea expects the F-15K to be in service until 2060. The F-15K variant has several features not typically found on F-15Es, such as an AAS-42 infrared search and track, a customized tactical electronics warfare suite to reduce weight and increase jamming effectiveness, cockpit compatibility with night vision device, ARC-232 UVHF radio with fighter data link system, and advanced APG-63V1 mechanical scan array radar. The APG-63V1 radar has common digital processing equipment with the APG-63V3 AESA radar, and thus is upgradable to an AESA radar via antenna replacement. The F-15K is equipped with the Joint Helmet-Mounted Cueing System. Weapons such as AGM-84K Slammer, AGM-84H Harpoon Block 2, and JASSM have been integrated. F-15S and SA. The F-15S is a variant of the F-15E supplied to the Royal Saudi Air Force in the mid to late 1990s. Saudi Arabia had previously wanted the F-15F, a proposed single-seat Strike Eagle. Saudi Arabia sought to order 24 F-15Fs, but was blocked by U.S. Congress. The F-15S is almost identical to the USAF F-15E, and the only major difference in the AN/APG-70 radar performance is the synthetic aperture mode. The version was initially referred to as F-15XP. 72 were built from 1996 to 1998. In October 2007, GE announced a contract with Saudi Arabia for 65 GE F-110 GE-129C engines for the F-15S in a contract worth over $300 a million. The F-15SA is a new version for the Saudi Arabian Air Force. The F-15SA will have a modern fly-by-wire flight control system in place of the hybrid electronic mechanical system used by all previous F-15s. In addition, the F-15SA includes the BAE Systems Digital Electronic Warfare System and redesigned cockpit that were also originally intended for the F-15SE. These changes will allow the carriage of weapons on the previously unused No. 1 and No. 9 weapon stations. On December 29, 2011, the United States signed a $29.4 billion contract to sell 84 F-15s in the SA configuration. The sale includes upgrades for the older F-15SS up to the SA standard and related equipment and services. A foreign military sales contract for 68 F-15S to F-15SA modification kits was placed with Boeing on June 26, 2012. First flight of a new-build F-15SA occurred on February 20, 2013. F-15SG. The F-15SG is a variant of the F-15E, ordered by the Republic of Singapore Air Force after a 7-year evaluation period involving 5 other fighter aircraft under consideration. The F-15SG was chosen on September 6, 2005 over the Dassault Rafale, the only remaining aircraft still in contention. On August 22, 2005, the U.S. Defense Security Cooperation Agency notified U.S. Congress about a potential foreign military sales of weapons, logistics and training in the event that the Boeing F-15 was selected by Singapore. Since the F-15 purchase was confirmed, it can be assumed that Singapore will follow up on this proposed weapons and logistics package, worth a further $741 million if all options are exercised. Various weapons and hardware are included in this package such as AIM-120C, and AIM-9X missiles. GBU-38JDAM, and AGM-154JSOW air-to-ground weapons. Night vision goggles and Link 16 terminals. The Singapore Ministry of Defence on October 22, 2007, exercised the option to purchase 8 more F-15SG fighters, which was part of the original contract signed in 2005. Along with this buy, an additional order of 4 F-15SGs increased the total order to 24 fighters. The first F-15SG was rolled out on November 3, 2008. Deliveries of F-15SGs began in 2009 and all 24 were declared operationally ready in September 2013. Media reports in March 2013 suggested Singapore may buy more F-15SG fighters. Proposed variants: F-15E Strike Eagle was a 1990s proposed export version of F-15E for Greece, which was selected by the Greek Ministry of Defence and the Greek Air Force, but the government chose new F-16s and Mirage 2000-5s instead. F-15G Wild Weasel was a proposed 2-seat version to replace the F-4G Wild Weasel in the suppression of enemy air defenses role. The F-15G was studied in 1986. A proposed modification to F-15CS for the SEAD role was studied in 1994 Euro 95, but F-16CS were modified to perform this role instead. F-15 is capable of carrying arms such as the AGM-88 HARM, and are well capable of performing the SEAD role, but are more often tasked with deep strike missions. F-15SE Silent Eagle is a further developed version of the F-15E by Boeing using 5th-generation fighter features, such as internal weapons carriage and radar-absorbent material. It features conformal weapons bays to hold weapons internally and the twin vertical tails canted outward 15 degrees to reduce radar cross-section. Operators: Israeli Air Force operates 25 F-15I RAM aircraft as of January 2011. Republic of Korea Air Force has ordered a combined 61 F-15K Slam Eagle with 1 lost in an accident. It has 45 F-15KS in use in January 2011. Saudi Arabia, Royal Saudi Air Force has 69 F-15S Eagles in service as of January 2011. Singapore, Republic of Singapore Air Force has ordered 24 F-15SG fighters. It has 15 F-15SGs in use in January 2011. United States Air Force, Air Combat Command, 4th Fighter Wing, Seymour Johnson AFB, North Carolina, 1988-present. 333d Fighter Squadron, 334th Fighter Squadron, 335th Fighter Squadron, 336th Fighter Squadron. 53D Wing, Eglin AFB, Florida, 1988-present. 85th Test and Evaluation Squadron, 422D Test and Evaluation Squadron 1997-present. 56th Fighter Wing, Luke AFB, Arizona, 1988-95. 461st Fighter Squadron, 550th Fighter Squadron. 57th Wing, Nellis AFB, Nevada. 17th Weapons Squadron 2003-present, 422D Fighter Weapons Squadron 1989-97. 366th Fighter Wing, Mountain Home AFB, Idaho, 1992-present. 389th Fighter Squadron, 391st Fighter Squadron. United States Air Forces Europe, 48th Fighter Wing, RAF Lakenheath, England 1992-present. 492D Fighter Squadron, 494th Fighter Squadron. Air Force Reserve Command, 414th Fighter Group, Seymour Johnson AFB, North Carolina, 2010-present. 307th Fighter Squadron. 926th Group, Nellis AFB, Nevada, 2007-present. 706th Fighter Squadron. Air Force Systems Command, 6510th Test Wing, Edwards AFB, California, 1986-92. 6512th Flight Test Squadron. Air Force Materiel Command, 412th Test Wing, Edwards AFB, California, 1992-2001. 445th Flight Test Squadron. Pacific Air Forces, 3D Wing, Elmendorf AFB, Alaska, 1994-2007. 90th Fighter Squadron. Accidents and losses. Specifications. Data from USAF Fact Sheet, Davis, General Characteristics, Crew, 2, Length, 63.8 feet, Wingspan, 42.8 feet, Height, 18.5 feet, Wing Area, 608 FTA², Airfoil, NACA 64A 6.6 Root, NACA 64A 203 Tip, Empty Weight, 31,700 pounds, Max Takeoff Weight, 81,000 pounds, Power Plant, Tour, Pratt & Whitney F100-229 Afterburning Turbofans, 29,000 pound forces each, Performance, Maximum Speed, Mach 2.5 plus, Combat Radius 790 miles, Ferry Range, 2,400 miles with conformal fuel tank and 3 external fuel tanks, Service Ceiling, 60,000 feet, Rate of Climb, 50,000 plus foot per minute, Thrust Weight, 0.93, Maximum G-Load, plus 9G. Armament, Guns, 1 20mm M61A1 Vulcan 6-barreled Gatling cannon, 510 rounds of either M56 or PGU-28 ammunition, hardpoints, 2 wing pylons, fuselage pylons, bomb racks on CFTs with a capacity of 23,000 lb of external fuel and ordnance, missiles, air-to-air missiles, 4 AIM-7 Sparrow, 4 AIM-9 Sidewinder, 8 AIM-120 AMRAAM. Air-to-surface missiles, 6 AGM-65 Maverick, 2 AGM-84 Harpoon, 2 AGM-84 hours per carat Slammer, AGM-130, AGM-154 JSOW, AGM-158 JASSM. Bombs, B-61 or B-83 nuclear bomb, Mark 82 bomb, Mark 84 bomb, CBU-87 or CBU-103, CBU-89 or CBU-104, CBU-97 or CBU-105, CBU-107 passive attack weapon, GBU-15, GBU-10 Paveway 2, GBU-12 Paveway 2, GBU-24 Paveway 3, GBU-27 Paveway 3, GBU-28, GBU-31 or GBU-38, GBU-39 small diameter bomb, GBU-54 laser JDAM. Others, up to 600 U.S. gallons external drop tanks for ferry flight or extended range loitering time. Avionics, radar, Raytheon AN/APG-70. Targeting pods, LANTIRN or Lockheed Martin Sniper XA or Lightning targeting pods. Countermeasures, Northrop Grumman Electronic Systems AN/ALQ-131 Electronic Countermeasures Pod, Hazeltine AN/APX-76 or Raytheon AN/APX-119 Identify Friend-Foe Interrogator, Magnavox AN/ALQ-128 Electronic Warfare Warning Setter Part of Tactical Electronic Warfare Systems, Laurel AN/ALR-56 Radar Warning Receivers Part of TEWS, Northrop Grumman Electronic Systems ALQ-135 Internal Countermeasures System Part of TEWS, Marconi AN/AL-45 Chaff Flares Dispenser System Part of TEWS. See also: 4th Generation Jet Fighter, Related Development, McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle, Boeing F-15E Silent Eagle, Related Lists, List of fighter aircraft, List of military aircraft of the United States, References, Notes. Citations. Bibliography. External links, F-15E USAF Fact Sheet, F-15E page and F-15K page on Boeing.com, F-15E on USAF National Museum website, F-15E.info, a dedicated F-15E site.